The time is not tomorrow. It's not next week. It's not someday. The time is now. August 2025 is not just another page on the calendar. It is a divine appointment. The heavens are shifting, the earth is trembling, and the Spirit is speaking louder than ever before. If you're hearing this, you've been summoned, not by man, not by chance, but by the living God. The master plan for your life, yes, Yahweh life, has just been revealed. And everything is about to change. You are not here by chance. The fact that you are reading or hearing this message right now, in this exact moment of your life, in this specific month of August 2025, is not a random event. It is not coincidence, happenstance, or fate. It is commission, the God of all creation, who spoke the stars into being, who breathed life into dust and called it man, has orchestrated this moment with precision and purpose. In his divine economy, nothing is wasted and no encounter is meaningless. Heaven has no accidents. What may feel to you like a simple scrolling moment, a message that happened to appear, is in fact a divine interception, a spiritual call to arms, a moment when eternity knocks on the door of time. You are not the result of random forces or chaotic energies colliding in space. You were crafted, designed, called. The master of all history wrote you into his story, not as a background character, not as a statistic, but as a vital piece of the plan unfolding right now on the earth. That plan is not just global, it's personal. It has your name etched into it, sealed by the breath of God. There's a commission with your name on it, and God is revealing it in this season, not to tease you, not to overwhelm you, but to awaken what he planted in you long ago. The dreams you've abandoned, the whispers you've ignored, the deep knowing that there's more, they are all pieces of this commission waiting to be activated by your response. And how do we know this is more than poetic language or religious optimism? Because history itself confirms that God does not move randomly and he does not choose arbitrarily. Consider the life of Esther, a Jewish orphan girl in exile taken into the palace of a foreign king, placed in a position of influence in what appeared to be a fluke of circumstance, but behind every turn of events, God was orchestrating something far greater than anyone could see. When her people faced annihilation, it was her, the one least likely, least prepared, least expected, who had been placed in the palace for such a time as this. That was not coincidence. That was commission. And in the same way, the strange shifts, the unexpected closed doors, the awkward waiting seasons, even the pain and detours of your past, none of them were accidents. They were preparation. God was placing you where you needed to be for this exact moment. If you feel unqualified, remember this: God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Your pain, your failure, your silence, they are not disqualifications. They are markers that something far deeper has been at work in you, even when you couldn't see it. Imagine a soldier handed sealed orders and told to wait for the appointed time. When the time comes, the seal is broken and the assignment is revealed. That's what's happening now. This is the moment when the seal has been broken. The orders are being unveiled. The master plan is being revealed, and it has your fingerprints all over it. This isn't motivational hype. This is prophetic urgency. The question is not whether God has a plan for you. He does. The question is, will you see this moment as a coincidence or as a commission? Because how you perceive it will determine how you respond. If you think this is just another message in a sea of noise, you will dismiss it. But if something in your spirit is stirred, if your soul feels the trembling of purpose rising, then lean in, because your commissioning has come. Let me take you to a real story from modern times. There was a young man born into poverty, abused as a child, abandoned by family, addicted to drugs before the age of 18. By the world's measure, he was a failure, disposable, lost, forgotten. But one day, he stumbled into a small church service. The pastor didn't know him, had never seen him before, but stopped mid-sermon and said, "You in the back. God says you've been running," but he never stopped chasing. "You are being called right now." That young man broke down, surrendered, and turned from a life of destruction to become a voice of hope in the prisons and streets he once knew too well. Today, he leads a ministry that reaches thousands, people no one else wanted, people the world forgot. And it all started in a moment that looked accidental, random, but was, in fact, a divine commission. You, too, are at such a crossroads. The nudging in your heart, the restlessness in your spirit, the timing of this very message. It is all evidence that God is speaking directly to you. What you do with this moment will shape more than just the next few months. It could reshape your destiny. You've been asking for answers, seeking direction, waiting for clarity, and this is your answer. You are being called. You are being chosen. You are being commissioned, not because of your strength, but because of his. Not because of your perfection, but because of his plan. So don't brush this off as chance. Don't silence the call by labeling it coincidence. Heaven has scheduled this appointment, and the King is summoning you. Rise up, respond, and say, "Here I am, Lord, send me." Because once you realize that nothing is random in the hands of God, you'll understand that this moment, this very second, is sacred. There are moments in life when time seems ordinary, one day blending into the next with familiar routines and predictable rhythms. But then, without warning, a shift takes place, a divine interruption, a holy acceleration. And suddenly, everything changes. August 2025 is one of those moments. It is not like the seasons before. It is not just another chapter of the same story. It is a divine turning point, a threshold in time when heaven's clock has moved. And those with spiritual discernment can feel it. The air feels charged. The atmosphere feels weighty. It is the sense that God is not just watching. He is moving. His timing, unlike man's, is perfect. While humans measure time in minutes and hours, God measures it in moments and alignments. He doesn't simply work in the chronos, the ticking of seconds. He moves in the kairos, the appointed time when heaven and earth intersect. And when that kairos moment arrives, it demands our attention, our response, our surrender. August 2025 is not a random page on the calendar. It is a divine summons to those whose hearts have been prepared in the hidden place. You may have felt like you've been in a season of silence, delay, or obscurity. You may have thought nothing was happening. But in truth, God has been preparing you for this moment of unveiling when the season changes not just outside, but within. Just as the Israelites had to follow the cloud when it moved by day and the fire by night, so must we move when God moves. When the cloud shifts, standing still becomes disobedience. When the fire lifts, our hesitation becomes rebellion. Heaven's clock has moved in August 2025, and those who are awake in the Spirit know that this delay is no longer an option. The window is open, but windows don't stay open forever. The shift is here, but it will not wait on our comfort zones. It's like the story of Noah. He didn't build the ark when the skies grew dark. He built it in the days of sunshine, mocked and misunderstood, preparing for a time no one else could see. But when the first raindrop fell, it was already too late to start building. The time had shifted. The moment had arrived. And what separated Noah from the rest was not information, but the obedience to the unseen timing of God. In the same way, many people around you may not recognize the urgency of this hour. They may keep living casually, spiritually asleep, unaware that the clock in heaven has moved forward. But that's not your call. Your responsibility is not to convince everyone else. Your responsibility is to move with the shift, to feel the urgency and respond, to listen not to the noise of the world, but to the whisper of the Spirit saying, now. There is no rewind button on moments like this. There is no guarantee that the same opportunity will cycle around again. The season has changed. God is doing a new thing. And if you're waiting for confirmation, this is it. He is stirring his people out of slumber and into position. For what's coming next will not be for spectators. It will be for those who are willing to obey without having all the answers. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this truth in a striking way. A woman named Maria had been working at the same job for years. Faithful, consistent, but feeling increasingly restless. She had dreams in her heart, dreams of starting a home for at-risk girls, a calling she had buried for fear of failure and lack of resources. But in the summer of a past year, not unlike this one, she felt a shift. It wasn't external. Her life looked the same, but something inside her began to burn. She kept sensing the phrase, now is the time. She wrestled with doubt, tried to shake the feeling, but only grew stronger. Finally, in faith, she resigned from her job and launched the vision with nothing but prayer and a step. Within 6 months, donors began appearing, doors opened in government and community leadership, and within 1 year, she was housing girls who had been trafficked and abandoned. She later said, if I had waited even a few months longer, the opportunity would have passed. The favor came when I moved, not before. That's what happens when the season shifts. God will open what no man can shut. But he doesn't drag us through open doors. He invites, he beckons, and then he waits for us to move. When the shift comes, timing becomes sacred. The longer you hesitate, the heavier the weight of missed obedience becomes. What God could have done through you utters now becomes delayed to another time or through another vessel. August 2025 is not a season for speculation, it's a season for activation. You may not have all the pieces, but if you wait for the full picture, you will miss the moment. God often reveals the plans one obedient step at a time. But the only way to receive the next instruction is to act on the first. The clock has moved. The Spirit is stirring. The river is rising. This is a time of divine movement, and if you will step into the flow, you will see things accelerate in ways that were impossible in past seasons. What once took years will take months. What once seemed unreachable will be placed into your hands. Has not because you earned it, but because you aligned with heaven's timing. The shift doesn't guarantee blessing, but obedience to the shift does. And for those who respond, the coming days will be filled with testimonies of breakthrough, restoration, and rapid fulfillment. But for those who ignore the signs, who delay until it's comfortable, the shift will pass like a train in the night. Heard, but missed. You are standing in a divine intersection. The old is behind you. The new is calling, but you can't carry both. You must choose. And that choice must happen now because heaven's clock has moved. The only question left is, will you move with it? There comes a time when the stirring inside you is no longer just a feeling or a passing thought. It's a divine alarm clock going off in your spirit. That time is now. You may have felt it building quietly over weeks or even years, an unease, a discomfort, a holy dissatisfaction with the way things have been. It's not depression and it's not confusion. It's not because something is wrong with you. It's because if something is waking up in you, you're calling. The eternal assignment God encoded into your very being before you took your first breath is the awakening. You were never meant to drift aimlessly through life, numbed by routine or dulled by delay. You were made with a purpose for a purpose in a generation that desperately needs what you carry. You were not designed for survival. You were born for there is impact, that nagging sense that you were created for more. It's not arrogance or fantasy. It's a holy indicator that God is activating your spirit for the next phase of your assignment. But the great tragedy of many lives is not that they never had a calling. It's that they hit snooze every time it rang. And each time you delay your obedience, the volume of the calling gets fainter. Not because it's gone, but because your heart becomes more comfortable with ignoring it. God is not looking for perfect people. He's looking for people who will stop hitting snooze. Who will get up, shake off the dust, and say, even if I don't have all the answers, I will move. I will obey. I will answer the call. The reason the stirring feels so strong in August 2025 is because heaven is issuing a fresh commissioning. The world is groaning under the weight of confusion and deception, and God is awakening his people not just to believe, but to become. You are not called to be a spiritual spectator. You are not called to keep your light dim so others feel comfortable. You are called to rise, to speak, to serve, to build, to create, to lead, to influence. And yes, that calling may feel too big for you, and it should, because it's not something you can fulfill in your own strength. It's a calling that demands your dependence on him, your obedience to his whisper, and your willingness to step out of the boat even when the water looks wild. The enemy of your soul knows this. That's why he's been fighting you so hard, not because you're weak, but because dangerous. He fears your awakening. He dreads the moment you stop being passive and start becoming powerful. He knows that one person fully surrendered to God is more of a threat than 1,000 who are simply inspired. And so he tries to lull you back to sleep with distraction, fear, insecurity, and shame. But this time it won't work because something deeper is rising in you now. The call is louder than the fear. The purpose is heavier than the excuses. And you know deep down it. You can't stay where you are. Achers, let me show you how real this is. There was a young man named Elijah, not the prophet from Scripture, but a modern-day youth raised in a broken home filled with violence and addiction. By age 16, he was in a gang, running drugs, and headed straight toward destruction. But one night, as he lay alone in an abandoned house, something woke him up, not a sound, but a deep inner stirring. He didn't know how to describe it. But later he said it felt like a hand reached into his chest and shook him awake. He wept uncontrollably for hours, not from fear, but from clarity. He knew he had to leave everything behind immediately. The next morning, he walked away from the gang, even though they threatened his life. He found a local pastor and asked to be discipled. Years later, Elijah now leads one of the fastest growing urban ministries in his city, rescuing boys who are right where he used to be. When asked what changed everything, he didn't talk about a strategy, a sermon, or a vision board. He said, I just knew I couldn't hit snooze anymore. Something in me knew the time was now. That's how it works. When the Spirit calls you awake, it's not always dramatic, but it is always decisive. Something shifts inside and you either obey or delay. But know this, every act of delay diminishes the momentum of what God wants to do through you in this hour. August 2025 is a divine window. The veil is thinner. The call is clearer. And while the world becomes noisier, those who listen in the quiet place will hear the unmistakable voice of destiny saying, now is your time. Your gifts are not random. Your passions are not accidents. Your wounds are not wasted. Everything in your life has been shaping you for this moment, not just for your healing, but for your Ross commissioning. You don't need more confirmation. You don't need another sign. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to move. Because when you take that first step in obedience, heaven releases the next one. That's how calling works. It's not delivered in full, it's revealed in motion. And if you're waiting to feel brave before you start, you'll never start. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that purpose matters more. You have been asleep long enough. The world has lulled too many of God's people into spiritual numbness. But not you. Not now. Not this time. The stirring in your chest is real. It is sacred. It is heaven's wake-up call. And your response will determine whether this becomes just another year or it's the year everything changes. So don't hit snooze. Don't roll over. Don't tell yourself maybe later. Later is not promised, but now has been given to you as a gift. Your calling is rising. Will you rise with it? The blueprint of God is never random, but its fulfillment requires our preparation, participation, and purity. The truth is, you cannot step into a divine plan with divided loyalty or a distracted heart. As this prophetic window opens in August 2025, one thing is becoming undeniably clear: to God is calling his people to cleanse, consecrate, and clarify. There are assignments waiting, doors ready to swing open, breakthroughs hanging in the balance, but heaven's power will not flow freely through contaminated vessels. You cannot carry old idols into new seasons. You cannot drag past compromises into present callings. This is not about earning favor. It's about making room for what God is about to release. There are some things that were acceptable in a previous season that will become spiritually fatal in this one. You must lay aside the sin that so easily entangles. Not just blatant rebellion, but subtle distractions, the constant scrolling, the bitterness you justified, the relationships that dull your spirit instead of sharpening it. God is holy, and his glory will not share space with clutter. And consecration is not a legalistic burden, it's a privilege. To be set apart, to be clean before him, to be free from the fog of compromises, to be in position for revelation and power. And in this hour, God is not just calling people with ability, he is calling people with availability, those who are willing to clear the noise, fast, pray, and posture their lives to hear clearly. Clarity is the fruit of consecration. You will not find it by asking more questions, but by removing more distractions. As you draw near to him, he draws near to you, not in vague emotional experiences, but in divine instruction, precision, and direction that can only be received when the heart is pure and the spirit is surrendered. And as you align with this call to purity and clarity, another truth emerges with overwhelming urgency. God is about to move with acceleration. The pace of heaven is increasing, not to exhaust you, but to accomplish in months what previously took years. But acceleration without alignment leads to destruction. God cannot accelerate someone who refuses to move. There is a divine quickening happening. Things that once seemed impossible are suddenly opening up. Prayers long delayed are being answered in rapid succession. Connections, resources, and opportunities are being divinely arranged. But none of it happens in theory. It happens when you step out in faith. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. Half-hearted obedience is still rebellion. You don't get to dictate the timeline of God's move. You either respond when he calls or you forfeit what he's trying to give. His grace will still be with you, but the window will pass. And the most dangerous lie the enemy tells in seasons like this is, you still have time. No, this is the time. And the cloud is moving. The fire is rising. And if you try to stay where he was, instead of going where he is, you'll find yourself outside the flow of blessing. It won't be because God changed his mind. It will be because, you didn't change your posture. And what's so powerful about divine acceleration is that once you step into it, you'll find that the weight you feared is not there. The burdens that once overwhelmed you suddenly become light because you're no longer carrying your assignment in your own strength. You're riding the wind of his spirit. At this point, it's not even about waiting on God. In truth, he's been waiting on you. He's already moved. He's already opened the door. The master plan has been revealed. The angels are in position. The resources are ready. But heaven is waiting for you to respond. We say we're waiting for confirmation, waiting for signs, waiting for strength, but often what we're really doing is as avoiding risk. We want guarantees instead of faith. But God doesn't operate that way. He speaks, then waits. He reveals, then watches. He knocks, but he will not kick down the door. You are not waiting on him. He is waiting on your yes. He is waiting on your movement. And the longer you wait, the more vulnerable you become to fear and doubt. Destiny has a rhythm. And when you miss that rhythm, you either fall behind or end up trying to manufacture something in your own strength. But when you say yes, even with trembling knees, you align yourself with the rhythm of heaven. You step into the momentum that's already been moving. Just like Peter stepping out of the boat, it wasn't about the storm or the water. It was about the voice that said, "Come." Once the word is spoken, it's no longer time to analyze, it's time to walk. And for those who do respond, who cleanse, consecrate, obey, and move, this season holds something breathtaking: release and restoration. What the enemy stole in years past is coming back with interest. The tears you cried in secret, the battles you fought in silence, the losses you endured with faith, none of it was forgotten. God keeps perfect records, and in this season, he is releasing as compensation. Restoration is not about getting back what you lost. It's about receiving what was always meant to be yours. The years the locusts have eaten, the relationships that were torn, the visions that faded, he is breathing life into them again. But here's the mystery of restoration. It comes after obedience, not before. God is not going to restore you so you'll obey. He wants to see if you'll obey us before you see the fruit. And when you do, he releases what only he can. A woman named Lillian once shared how she had lost everything: her marriage, her business, her reputation. For 5 years, she lived quietly, cleaning houses and praying, waiting on God. Then one day, she felt the Spirit say, "Go and apply for the license again." It made no sense. She had no money, no clients, no reason to hope. But she obeyed. Within 2 weeks, a former client who had disappeared called her out of nowhere and offered to invest in a new business. Within 6 months, Lillian was back on her feet, running a business twice as successful as before. But this time, she knew it wasn't her. And it was God's restoration. She said, "The moment I obeyed, something broke open." That's the power of this season. You may have thought you were forgotten. You may have believed the best was behind you. But August 2025 declares something different. Your restoration has come. Yes. So this is the time. Cleanse your heart. Consecrate your life. Clarify your direction. Step into alignment so acceleration can carry you. Realize that God is not dragging his feet. You are the one he's been waiting for. And if you will move in faith, you will not only step into your calling, you will experience restoration, release, and revival on a level you've never known. But this window is sacred. It will not wait forever. The scroll is open. The trumpet is sounding. The master plan is unfolding. And your name is written on it. Now go. And don't look back. The scroll has been unsealed. The trumpet has been blown. The mantle has been passed. The master plan is in your hands, not a plan of survival, but a plan of revival. Not for wandering, but for dominion. August 2025 is not the beginning of another cycle. It's the beginning of your assignment. Will you rise? Will you run? Will you say, "Here I am, Lord"? The plan is no longer hidden. Now, it's up to you to walk it out, because when God reveals the plan, it's never for information. It's for transformation. Now, your hour has come.